making turkey chili. We're going to be using ground turkey. And we're cutting up the onion. So that way we'll let the ground turkey and the onion brown. With a little bit of olive oil first. So I'm cutting up the onion right now.
Somebody get the violin.
Wow. Crazy. So, yep, I'm cutting up a Vidalia onion.
Is she crying?
Not really. I think that might have something to do with how strong the onion is, because I've noticed when I've cut up stronger onions in the past that weren't very fresh, that's when I started crying from the onions a little bit. And my eyes would get really bad. I try to refrain from crying from them, but sometimes you can feel the stuff from the onions get into your eyes. Cut up into small pieces. We haven't had chili in a while, and I figured since it's a pretty fairly healthy dish, it's mostly protein and basically canned tomatoes or crushed tomatoes, however you want to put it, with other spices. And at home, when you make it yourself, you can control the amount of spices you can put into it, and control the amount of salt as well. For some people, might have to watch their salt intake. And plus, if we make it, thankfully it's one of those dishes where it'll last you a long, quite a few days, as far as leftovers. Because I hate having to cook almost every day in the kitchen. I'm sure some women and some of the men out there, if the men are doing the cooking for their women, they would probably agree with me either way. Especially when I have a busy week too, as far as working all day. And since we don't really have chili seasoning mix, we can always do is, luckily we have the paprika on hand, we have salt and pepper, and we also have adobo seasoning, so it might mimic some of the cumin flavor, and there's turmeric in there. I'm trying to mimic this as much as possible because unfortunately we don't have cumin here in the house, which I didn't realize we didn't have, or chili powder, which doesn't help. So we try to come up with our own seasonings our own way. Try to make a more creative version and create with whatever you got in your kitchen at the moment. Just gotta create with whatever you got. I'm hearing the ground turkey cooking and sizzling a little bit. And I got it browning in a pot instead because eventually your crushed tomatoes are going to go in the pot anyway. That way I try to do it all this in one dish as much as possible, so it eliminates a little bit less mess. So this is basically turkey chili that we are making tonight for Monday night for dinner. I don't necessarily be one of those women where a lot of us, we will do what you call meal plan. If some women are like used to meal planning, then kudos to you. Because unfortunately with us, we have a tiny refrigerator because we live in an apartment, not in a regular house. So we are limited on a little bit of space for putting more than one meal inside the refrigerator. So what I do, just like what my mom used to do, she would cook one meal one night and try to make that meal last for the family for at least 2 or 3 days. That way all I have to worry about is just cooking maybe twice out of the week, maybe 3 times at the most, instead of having to cook every single day. And for me, it always works that way. And we use whatever's left over in the house in order to try to use up what we have first so it doesn't go bad. So, right now I am in the middle of browning the meat. We just got to turn down to medium heat so that way meat doesn't burn on us. Yep, I'm in the middle of browning the ground turkey and cutting this up, chopping it up to make sure it's all even. Some of the stuff might have stuck to the bottom already, which is okay. Not a big deal. Because eventually the water will help to loosen up the stuff from the bottom anyway. So we already have some of the turkey browning. This is great. And it's starting to cook through a little bit. So next we're going to be adding in the onion to cook the onion first along with the meat. Yep, and we're going to need eventually crushed tomatoes, which my boyfriend is trying to prepare for me. He's trying to help prepare some ingredients for me, which helps me out. Now we're going to add our diced onions. And we'll mix that in with the meat and let the meat cook along with the onions. So we'll turn that heat back up just a little in order for it to cook. This. Add a little bit of regular olive oil. Just add a little to it. Don't need too much. There we go. And eventually this stuff will come back up and start cooking. bring this heat back up to really get it cooking. The meat and the onions. And we'll probably need 2 cans of those crushed tomatoes, Nick. Probably need both. So here goes in 1 can of crushed tomatoes. I just got a little mess on the stove, but that's okay. A little bit of mess is normal. It's not gonna be perfect. Excuse me. Just clean it up as I go. That's what my mom always believed in, because the less mess towards the end, the better. Especially when you're tired at the end of the day. Here's the 2nd can of crushed tomatoes. Just slowly add it in because we don't want to splash the other stuff again like we did before. So here's that. There's no more chickpeas left, is there, Nick?
Let's see, refried beans.
Okay. So instead, since unfortunately we don't have
Corn?
chickpeas, we can add that. We are going to be doing black beans for our beans. And we don't really have kidney beans. Yep, we can use both. But we do have black beans, which is another good alternative if you don't have regular kidney beans. But we figured black beans and chickpeas probably figured out of the scale of all of them have the most nutritious more iron in them than any other bean. More than actually other beans, believe it or not. I'm gonna try to soak the liquid out of these and get rid of the liquid. As much as we can. This is my way of getting rid of the liquid. To me, it's a little bit quicker.
Colder.
Same thing with the other one. Get rid of the liquid out of that. There's still liquid coming out. Wash my hands a little bit, trim the residue off from the beans. Get a fork to get the rest of this open. So there we go, the opening of the black beans. We'll add those in. Great. There's the 2nd can of black beans going in. I'm just making this recipe up off the whim. Didn't come from a book. We add the cheese last. That's the end for our treat on top of the turkey chili. So now mixing in the beans. And adding in corn. This is last. That's all the toppings you put on top of your chili at the end. I'm gonna add some corn to this chili. I'm trying to use up whatever's left in our cupboard, or in our pantry, I should say. Whether you got a pantry or a cupboard, where you keep your food. And thankfully, we just started this off the whim. It's just something quick and easy. And luckily, it'll be something that'll last you a couple days. Instead of having to cook a whole lot for a couple more days. Throw out the rest of these cans. Stir the rest of this stuff into the chili. Now we're going to add in some of our spices. Just add in your basic salt and pepper. We have Himalayan salt that we use. Any salt is fine. So I'm going to start adding our Himalayan salt, whatever's left from this one. A generous amount in there. And if you still want to add salt to it later, you can. Go ahead if you want. Good enough there. We'll add in some black pepper. Just a little bit. Add in some paprika. Add a little bit here. And I'm going to try this adobo seasoning, because I feel like it smells a lot like cumin in there. You know, it doesn't say there's no cumin in this. There's onion powder, garlic powder, turmeric in this with the adobo seasoning. So we'll try to use this as a backup since we just don't really have any cumin in the kitchen. Neither do we have chili powder, which really sucks. So I'm going to try adding this into this for flavor. As much as we can to this. So we'll start out with that. I want to turn this down now. Turn it down to medium heat so the stuff doesn't splatter all over. Matter of fact, since we don't have too much Mexican seasoning as a backup for cumin, chili powder, why not go for it? At least we have taco seasoning, because cumin is usually in taco seasoning. So I might also do that. So that will be a little bit of a backup. And there's nothing wrong with adding taco seasoning to chili in case you don't have any chili seasoning as a backup. Now, since I didn't tear this off enough, I might have to use some scissors. Sometimes it doesn't always happen that way. Boy, does that smell good. It smells delicious. That'll definitely give you more of your chili flavor. You really only need one packet. You'd be surprised as to how much one packet will do for the whole pot. That will make it taste delicious. Oh, and it's smelling good already. Very good. Yep, this is looking good. Very good. There we go. That's the basics for that, for the recipe. That easy. Now what we're going to do is take the lid and we'll put it on the pot. We'll put this on simmer. And we're going to simmer it for 30 minutes. And we'll come back in 30 minutes. There we go.